Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back now to Infamous versus EnemyGG, game number 2. Lyrical Dota joined today by Gorgon the Wonder Cow. Sir, we're here in Nanyang Championships, North American qualifiers, with I should just say American qualifiers. How are you feeling about this game number 2, and maybe a little bit of a recap on things that stood out for you for game number 1?
Yeah, for game number 2, I'm really hoping to see EnemyGG wake up a little bit, shake it out. Get ready to move in with a strategy that maybe they're a little more comfortable with. They obviously were playing heroes that they knew how to play. Frozen on the Enchantress and Slark for BSJ is a dream come true. But they did it into a lineup that was designed really to get out faster and more effectively than theirs was. And because they did have the jungler, even though the jungler was far more effective than I think otherwise I would have expected, still, there just wasn't the high impact in the early game that you needed from a 4-spot in order to prevent that life stealer from getting out of control. I do also just want to point out that these are very important qualifiers for the Americas, right? Because this is going to be a major interregional LAN event in which complexity is neither invited nor competing in the Americas qualifiers. That's going to be a very rare thing here moving forward from now until the international. So for any team in the Americas, including somebody like Shazam, somebody like Digital Chaos, Infamous, EnemyGG, any team that wants to rise out of the American ranks, this is going to be the best opportunity to get their foot in the door at a LAN, get that experience to grow moving toward either potential qualifiers for the international, potential qualifiers for the Summit 5, or any of these other upcoming events.
Yeah, there's a lot of big things coming up, and being able to stake out your spot and being able to make it through to one of these bigger championships would definitely be really important and put you on the map. I mean, potentially for sponsorships or whatever else you want to see later on down the road. Ricky, again, going to be the first phase ban for Infamous, and the Beastmaster also, as well as that Darkseer. And then the last round of bans there was the Bounty. Kind of an interesting one. I think that we saw that. Did we see that in the first phase last time around as well?
Very well may have.
Yeah. It's so
I don't honestly remember.
Like, you also see the Doom. So another one of those heroes that I think that Newbie most recently have been running it more often than not in that offlane role with KP, but also traditionally, well, I don't know if I want to say traditionally, more recently has been run a lot more often in that 4 position where you can roam on into the mid lane and make stuff happen.
Yeah, he's just a lot more versatile right now in the 4th spot than he had been in the past, especially since the rework of Level Death into Infernal Blade, which this is his first period of popularity since that change, right? The end of 686 and now 687. That sort of damage allows him to chew through the jungle a little more effectively. It allows him to more impact the rotations at prime times, because before with the level death you wouldn't even scale it, and if you were going to be a 4-spot, right, you would either scale it and then wait for somebody to hit the right level, which is wholly unreasonable at the professional level, or you would just max out Scorched Earth and try to run people down, which is not an effective way to gank 2 of the 3 lanes because of their proximity to towers. So the change to Infernal Blade has just made him much more viable as a rotating killer instead of as a mid-game core. EnemyGG are themselves going to pick up the line, which actually worked out for them relatively well last time. I had no real complaints about the line's play. And then Lifestealer, which is a BSJ classic. It is their most played hero over the last month.
Nice. Well, and that did seem to be maybe one of the places that there is going to be a bit of a point of contention in this game is, do you put this hero, again for Infamous, or do you try and pick it up for EnemyGG? And considering they had the first pick all around, I kind of was expecting them to take it again, but they're going to take the Doom instead, the answer to it in some extent. I guess that's something that I always wonder about. Do you feel like Doom is a great answer to Lifestealer? I always think about if you're able to catch him before Enrage gets popped, that it can be just so effective. Maybe also a little bit of, we're going to throw it back in your face and show you how to beat this hero.
Right, I mean, Doom is really effective against Lifestealer, especially because Lifestealer armlet toggles in general, right? Like, Doom coming in, having that constant damage over time so that the armlet toggle is not going to do what it did last game. If you do toggle down to 1 health, you die instantly. It does stop a lot of the slipperiness of the Lifestealer with the Infest, with the open wounds. Makes him very easy to kite. He's probably not going to be the ideal target for most of the game, but there are a lot of situations in which throwing the Doom onto the Lifestealer can just shut them down completely in a fight. Not necessarily as much as some other cores that are really cast dependent, like a Weaver or any sort of intelligence casting core, but it's a good spell on almost every hero. There are very few heroes that you can cast Doom on and be like, well, that did nothing. It's still going to take them out of the fight, allow them to get kited.
Yeah. And also now going to be going back for the Dazzle, so shoring up a little bit their ability to me, I think that this signals that the Doom is probably going to be played in that 4 position where he's roaming around the map, and then you take the Dazzle to try and shore up your lanes a little bit, make sure that you're not just going to get ran over by some offlaner that can find kills consistently. Would you be reading that the same way, considering that, Dazzle is just that traditional stay-in-lane support?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see anything unexpected out of this Dazzle, at least not with the 2 picks that we see here. Dazzle is a pretty decent support in this particular case. He gives you lots of armor to deal with the Life Stealer, and then in addition to that, right, the Grave is going to allow people to be kited out, makes it more difficult for the Lion to land an effective finger, all of that nonsense. Infamous really haven't given away a lot about their draft, right? Looking at EnemyGG, I can kind of tell how they're going to scale, especially because BSJ has certain patterns that he likes to fill with the Life Stealer. For Infamous, honestly, they could be going late game, they could be going early game, and you don't really know.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough here, we're going to see a couple of very unique picks. It's the Puck as well as the Lich that are banned, the Ancient Apparition, and the Storm Spirit. And then seeing the Ancient Apparition ban, EnemyGG take the Alchemist for themselves. Also, I mean, Ancient Apparition pretty good against both Dazzle and Doom, but now they've got a hero here who just has massive regeneration capacity in this Alch, as well as the ability to give off some of those Aghanim Scepters late game. Like, this hero has just been all over the map, every region.
Yeah, Alchemist really scales very well right now because what he does is he collects farm in a way that very few other heroes are able to do with the Grieval's Greed, and leverages that to offset the disadvantage that this patch puts onto a standard playstyle, a traditional playstyle, so that while most teams, most compositions are going to be getting slightly less gold unless they're getting kills in the early game, an Alchemist composition is going to be getting the same amount of gold basically that they ever would have gotten. And that helps them hit those power spikes, which is a phrase that I've picked up recently instead of what I would normally say, which is windowing. It helps them window at a very effective time. And also, the Life Stealer doesn't have to get a Radiance now for the Radiance strategy, right? Alchemist can pick up the Radiance if he wants to. Life Stealer can just get some combat items and Armlet and move into level 11 on the Ancients, and at that point in time, they can push down towers. So as long as they can maintain a decent semblance of map control until Life Stealer hits level 11, EnemyGG are looking to be in a pretty decent position to take over the game. I don't know that Infamous really have any answers to Ancients.
I was wondering if this was about to happen too. I was literally about to say the Huskar is a possibility here at this stage. It's a little bit sketchy because, again, you're going up against a Life Stealer and an Alchemist who both do a lot of physical damage. They chose the Skywrath Mage, which is also not necessarily the greatest against Huskar with that damage, the high magic resistance that you get from Berserker's Blood. But Dazzle Huskar, I mean, is it back? How badly did Huskar get hurt by those changes to him?
He is really effective with Armlet, right? So the Armlet changes that were recently made, like you can literally, I saw it at DreamHack, right? One of the guys from U of M roast solo level 1, or not level 1. He roast solo with Huskar at like level 7, right? And effectively got in free Aegis because the way that you can toggle Armlet is just outrageous. The extra armor that it gives you, the extra damage, it's just, if you scale correctly, this Huskar is going to absolutely just tear through anything that comes into his path. But Lifestealer, Alchemist both have decent regen. They both have, at least the Lifestealer will certainly be going for an armlet, if not both of them.
Right.
So Huskar in general is a hero that likes to go up against very high base health opponents because of the way that Life Break works, just taking away a percentage of their health. Alchemist is high regen. Lifestealer is going to be utilizing armlet toggles. That makes it more difficult for the Huskar to necessarily close that gap.
I will say, though, that, again, this is a guy that made his name on the stage around a Huskar build and being able to play it consistently. You know, they banned out. Oh my god, they banned out the ancient apparition, and then they ended up taking the
Yeah.
dazzle in the first phase. It felt like that was potentially one of those ones that maybe you ban that instead of storm spirit. I don't know what your thoughts on that, but
I agree.
maybe
I think
a little bit questionable.
I think that Enemy GG probably had a bad experience with the Storm Spirit
Okay.
recently. They didn't want to deal with it, and maybe it just didn't occur to them that Huskar was coming out. If I'm being honest, I thought that the Huskar was a possibility, but it didn't really register to me which team we were watching. You know what I mean? It was one
Yeah.
of those. Oh yeah, wait, no, we're watching Infamous. Of course the Huskar is coming out, and now the Oracle as well. They have a lot of ways to keep this Huskar alive with minimal health. I mean, just think about you can lock Huskar at 0 health for max attack speed for like 7 seconds with false promises at level 6.
I
That's
really
7
like
seconds
this
of
answer, though.
guaranteed max attack speed.
I will say that I really like this answer though. They're going to go for the Nature's Prophet on Sovereign, and to me at least, as I'm looking at this lineup, we have a little bit of maximum production value in the world going on. I'm looking at this Huskar here, and I'm trying to think about, all right, what is it that he's eventually going to end up doing? With the Lifestealer, there's a very clear we're going to take towers. That hero is capable of doing it if you get a really quick AC. With Huskar, a lot of his damage comes from that burning spears. It's less about being able to push towers. Do you think that they're still going to be able to find objectives with this lineup? I mean, they've got 3 cores here that scale incredibly great out of EnemyGG.
Yeah, I think the Death Prophet is really their key to towers. And of course, the Huskar pushes towers pretty well with Berserker's Blood if he's willing to hang on to low health for a while, which with a Dazzle Oracle is maybe more realistic than it normally would be. But they're probably just going to force down towers on the cooldown of Exorcism. So I wouldn't expect a lot of early towers to be going down for Infamous. And if EnemyGG would like to blow this game open, one way that they can do it is get off to a very early start, rotate into that mid lane, kill that Death Prophet 1 or 2 times before she hits that level 6, so that you get that level advantage over the mid laner and she's not able to knock down towers quite as efficiently.
We'll see if they're going to be able to do it again. Game number 2 here of EnemyGG facing off against Infamous. A little bit of a posturing for the runes, but I think the Drizzle is going to be able to pick his up in the top lane here, as he's going to be able to get an easy 300 gold. And I don't know how well this is going to end up doing. I mean, what do you think about the matchup, DP versus Alchemist in the mid lane? Is there any hero that you particularly favor in this one? You don't have the quick level 2 on Alch anymore with the rune.
Yeah, I think Alch will be absolutely fine here. The Death Prophet really just relies on spam in order to knock her opponents down, and Alchemist is pretty tanky. Not only that, the level 1 rune always guarantees a salve and a quelling blade for him. That's pretty much what every professional player grabs with that extra 300 gold. And then Skywrath is a hugely beneficial support for this mid lane matchup. Look at him just spamming.
Yeah.
Like, already the Oracle's down to half health. They're going to try to charge past the Alchemist, but they can't really justify it, or they can die.
2-person Earth Spike following it through, and a little bit far forward. That's going to end up being first blood going the way of the Lion, played by Lycan. Exceptionally well done there. So 3 heroes mid. This doesn't really come at that really big of a cost, as all their other lanes are going fine.
Yeah, I mean, you get BSJ onto the Lifesteal in a one-on-one matchup up top. He's happy as a clam up here. Down bottom, Sovereign on the Nature's Prophet is, once again, this is a matchup that he should be able to at least get his levels, if not a fair amount of fun. And Alchemist is not a superbly level-dependent hero. Like, he does need to get going. He does need levels like anybody else does, but not to the same degree that somebody like an Invoker might, or a Death Prophet might, right? He really just wants to get farm. The hero is based around farm.
Yeah.
And so having 3 heroes splitting experience in the mid lane is fine for a short period. He doesn't really care as long as he's getting last hits.
And taking a good amount of damage. You can see here the dual mid going on with the Death Prophet and the Oracle. They need to be pretty freaking careful. As far as down here goes, the Huskar facing off against the Nature's Prophet with the trees. Do you think that there's kill potential in this lane for the Huskar Dazzle combo eventually, or do they need to wait until it's level 6 up on Huskar before anything can really happen?
Yeah, Sovereign would have to be pretty out of place to die here, right? The slow from Poison Touch is going to be minimal. He's got a self-sprout to prevent vision. There's not going to be any weave to provide vision inside the sprout, and they don't really have any way to close the gap. So
Up top, they're actually going to be going. Sovereign TP's in for this one, but didn't actually go far enough, and Scorched Earth is going to mean that they don't find the kill on the Doom. So a heavy rotation for this one, and not being able to find the kill.
Yeah, at least they forced the rotation, right? They're doing okay. Meanwhile, though, I mean, Alchemist is finding every little bit of farm that he needs here in the mid lane. He's keeping up with the Lifestealer, and he's got Greevil's Greed up. The Huskar is actually doing really, really well down bottom. So, like I was saying, that Sovereign can't really, he's not really under threat of death. Similarly, he can't really zone out a Huskar with the Dazzle lane. That's the one benefit to this lane. This Huskar should be just fine to find whatever sort of farm falls down his way.
And I will say again that this was sort of the build that Kotaro Hayama was classically known for. He ended up going for almost every single game, I think, armlet first on the Huskar, no boots at all. And it looks like he's going to be doing pretty much the same thing, as the pressure is going to start to be mounted along this bottom tier 1 tower. No Nature's Prophet anywhere to be found to try and make this not happen. And so this should just be about a 3.5 minute tower as the catapult's going to be coming in. This is a little bit worrying if you're EnemyGG.
Yeah, well, I mean, he can close the gap with Life Break. He doesn't really need the boots in order to get in there, right? He comes from a culture where all the Olympic runners prefer to run barefoot, right? You got it's part of the overall part of the experience.
I like that you turned that cultural. That's great. It's good stuff. I mean, it's true. Yeah, sure. Why not? Good things. Well, the tower is going to end up falling, and we'll see if they're going to be able to get the last hit. When the armlet comes out, do you think it's just straight into Roshan, or what's your thought there?
If they can get a pick first, that would be ideal, right? He can probably go straight into Roshan if he's feeling comfortable with it, but the dangerous aspect of that Huskar straight into Roshan solo strategy is that any sort of damage, like a strong wind, will knock him over because he's spending his entire time at like 10 health just toggling the armlet. He could do it, though. It's something that I think Enemy are going to be prepared for because they have seen it in the past. But then they are actually dropping down some vision to make sure that they have at least some semblance of a knowledge of when that's happening.
And this Dazzle is just not at all afraid of anything, and they're not willing to go on to him, realizing that there's a lot of heroes that could be in the area. The rotation does come in from Doom now as well, so he's going to be moving into the area, only level 4, but does have 2 points in that Scorched Earth. They are really thinking about invading this jungle and are actually just going to be going for a tier 2 tower here, I think. I'm not exactly sure. This is very bold, and the Drizzle getting ran on this Death Prophet a little bit too far forward, and that should maybe end up being a kill. Got off the Spirit Siphon before, and now actually just going to be able to walk away from that one.
Yeah, so all the meantime, though, like the slow chip onto this bottom tower with the armlet, there's just no way to stop this Huskar unless somebody actually comes down here. Look at him, he's just man-fighting a building. It's no big deal.
Well, all right, 5.5 minute tier 2 tower. This is very rapidly becoming a problem. Are they literally just going to go high ground at this point? They've got 4 heroes here. Why not?
If Enemy don't do something to stop him, yeah.
This is the same catapult that came to them at the 3-minute mark, and they're going to be pushing high ground with it. They do finally back out as the Lifestealers here, but they might just actually turn and try and fight this. He's dropping pretty low. They get the open wombs off, and what is even going on in this game?
Right. They're trying to force the rotations. They want to take Enemy out of their comfort zone. And Enemy, at first, we're like, yeah, no, we're not going to play to your game. We're not going to let you take us out of our comfort zone. We're not going to come respond to you. And then they realize, oh, you're serious. You're actually just going to drill through our high ground if we don't respond. Now all the TP responses back into the base means this tier 1 tower top should go down without a fight. And we don't even have the Exorcism up yet from the Death Prophet.
I mean, you look at the levels right now, there's only 2 heroes with level 6 in this game. Like, it has just been an all-out push coming from the side of Infamous, and I mean, they're doing a great job of it. They are going to jump in now. Really nicely played. They end up being able to find that kill, and unfortunately, as I was saying, no level 6 on the Oracle meant that there was no way for them to be able to save that Huskar. Meanwhile, mid lane, they are going to be trying to continue to farm on that Alk, but going to be able to find a kill possibly here. Earthspike goes onto the Oracle. Shallow Grave comes out, not going to be able to find that kill, and is just going to try and run away from the Huskar. They TP in Sovereign, and now going to look for a little bit more. They get the Sprout onto out to get me, and I think that this Dazzle might happen to go down now as finally the rotations come from Enemy, and it was really, really well timed.
Yeah, for Infamous, I feel like they mistook, oh, look, we're taking a tier 2 tower at 4 minutes as, oh, look, we're wildly out-farming our opponents. That's just not the case, right? The armlet came up on the Huskar just much sooner than their opponents had any sort of actionable worth.
Oh, and now also going to try and get out of here. They do try and heal up this DP, very tanky, and with all the Spirit Siphons as well as that false promise. Nope, not going to be able to do it. It was close. It was a really good Infest Bomb there from the Lifestealer as well, and now going to be able to realize that this is going on. Huskar bashed up by Roshan in a little bit of trouble trying to armor toggle out of there, but I think that he is maybe going to go down. He's pretty freaking tanky against this and is going to finally get caught up in those trees, eats through them with the tangos that he still has because that's a thing, and he's going to keep on running away. He's never going to die. Run, Huskar, but I think that this might be his swan song as they finally find the kill. 6-1. EnemyGG have responded incredibly well to this.
Okay, so the Sovereign's going to be the trade, and Lycan maybe as well. Maybe not. No, there it is.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, they found him.
Yeah, back to the point, right? Huskar level 5 with Armlet, that is not such an advantage that you can start throwing your damn weight around. You know what I mean? Like, that is, you put on a beer belly, maybe, and you're able to catch your opponents off guard with your weight, but it's not something that enemy weren't going to be able to come and contest immediately. And I feel like Infamous got a little too big for their britches. Like, oh, we've got an Armlet and a level 5 Huskar. We're ready to take on the world.
We're ready to go high ground.
Right. I think it just caught enemy off guard at first, and that's really what the issue was. And enemy are no longer caught off guard.
Yeah, and they've been responding just about as good as you can. Again, this sort of harkens back to, a good amount of leadership saying we're not going to sort of be tempted into this. We're going to play our game. When it finally comes where they're pushing high ground, we'll respond at that point, and showing a lot of patience. I think that there's probably a good amount of other teams there that probably would have just, ended up maybe overextending or not responding or just making a couple of decisions. And it is a tense moment because if you make the wrong decision at that point, it's potentially game over.
Yeah.
But a tier 1 tower is going to go down mid. Exactly.
That's high pressure. When it's potentially game over at 6 minutes, your reputation's on the line at that point.
Absolutely. Well, they are going to be pushing in now towards the tier 2. They rotated up top on the side of enemy to make this happen, and we're going to need to see some type of reaction.
Yeah. How cute. Alchemist just got his armlet up.
Good stuff. And actually, going to be looking for another one here. They popped the Exorcism because that's a spell that they haven't had to use so far this game. Man, this Huskar, he is just not afraid of tanking the tower. Very, very on point with his toggles, and they get the tier 2.
It's such a risky strategy.
Oh, he got the deny, actually. And now he lost it. Did he lose it to the catapult?
Yeah. I was just trying to say, such a risky strategy to tank the tower just to knock down a building like 30 seconds faster because, somebody spits from the other side of the city and it knocks you over and kills you. Up top, though, that was a trade almost tier 2 for tier 2, right? Enemy got through most of the tier 2 up top. That's pretty good. And they know where Huskar is. They did just scan him. They've got a sense of what's going on here. That's pretty obvious considering Infamous have been fairly single-minded so far this game, and Husk is not going to wait for anything. He's just going to do it on his own.
I think his team is telling him to get out of there now. He showed off earlier. He showed off in the previous game. It's really impressive, again, when you see this type of play, like the individual skill that we were talking about. But if EnemyGG are able to sort of pull together as a team, make solid decisions, I still think that they've got a really great shot at being able to take this. Like, they've lost both tier 2 towers in both bottom and mid, but I don't think by any means they're out of it.
Oh, no, I think EnemyGG are actually in a really good position.
Yeah.
Right? They're barely behind on net worth, even though they're down several towers. They have given up a significant net worth advantage to their opponents, but their opponents haven't actually been able to force out favorable fights. When it comes to high ground, when Infamous are no longer... We'll come back to this.
No, Doom goes down on the Lifestealer right off the bat. His armlet's still toggled, so he needs to feast through this if he possibly can. A lot of damage going in from the Huskar. They might be able to find this kill. Oh, there's the Dazzle Grave right at the perfect time, and going to be looking for a little bit more. They are going to be able to get the Sprout on top of Kateroyama, running away for the moment. Does get another armlet toggle, still alive for the moment, and I don't think that they're going to be able to quite chase him down as of yet. They get the Earth Spike, is barely going to get brought down finally, and they find the kill. Dazzle now exposed as well, and they've been able to find 4. Just an explosion of damage coming out from EnemyGG, and they're able to take that one.
Yeah, so as I was trying to say, right, they're in pretty good spot. Just because it seems like Infamous are throwing their weight around a lot, but in doing so, they're atrophying a bit, right? Infamous are grouping up. They're not taking the experience from around the map. The experience lead starting to tilt very heavily in EnemyGG's favor, even before that last engagement. The gold lead is not in Infamous's favor, even before that last engagement, despite the fact that Infamous are up on towers. The Huskar, who has been a formidable force on the map, has not been a formidable foe. He's only 1-3-1, and they just honestly don't scale anywhere near as well as EnemyGG do. So if they're unable to take high ground relatively quickly here, and we're only at 13 minutes, it's going to be very, very difficult for Infamous to actually win this game, despite the fact that it looks like, on paper, they're really rolling through their opponents.
I would completely agree. It's a very tenuous spot, and you're starting to get ahead on levels. You're starting to get ahead as well on just basic items that are going to start to make a difference. You look at the Nature's Prophet, for instance, has his fades, has his drums. There's a potential that he could end up going back for finishing off the mechanism next. That's a build that I've seen a couple of times that I really like. They are going to be able to find the Doom in the mid lane. A really nice combination there, and that's what you get. You've got the Lion with the Earth Spike and then followed up with the Skywrath Mage ulti, and it's a quick and easy kill.
The lifesteal is now up on the Husk, but honestly, he's just behind. He's a level behind the Alchemist. He's only even with both the Lifestealer and the Nature's Prophet. And the net worth that he does have, like the actionable items in his inventory, are really effective in one-on-one or one-on-two, but they don't give him the ability to mass man fight into his opponents, especially with the AoE damage and negative armor that does come out of enemy.
Well, and now I'm looking at this. I like the Blightstone on the Dazzle, too. I think he's had that for a while since the beginning. I always like seeing the new items being built together in conjunction for the starting things. But the Huskar, as they push in towards the Tier 2, if they do break high ground, do enemy need to be worried at that point? Like, if they lose a lane of racks at this stage, is this a real problem as we're starting to actually see split push come out from enemy?
It's always a problem if you lose to Rax, but I don't think it's the end of the game by any means. They have an Alchemist who's traditionally very good at defending against even 2 lanes of supers, because Greevil's Greed means that he's not losing any gold, really, effectively. They likely are going to lose the tower here. They might not lose the barracks. Depends on if they want to respond.
Now Alchemist so close to being able to finish off that Radiance. He's actually going to have to TP back now, looking to see if they can make something happen. He doesn't quite have it. 300 gold away at this point. His Acid Spray is down, trying to get whatever little bits of gold he can, but now with the Tier 3 tower down, they need to be really, really careful. Exorcism's still up for a little while. About a quarter of the duration is left still. And they have been able to get the Doom now onto the Lion, so no Lion for this next little engagement that's going to come out. They throw out the stun, hits onto 2. That's going to keep them controlled for the moment. The Sprout is there as well, but they've already lost 1. There's going to be the jump forward by the Huskar, doing a ton of damage to that Alchemist, and he is going to drop. Unfortunately, this is going to be such a survivable Huskar. They get the Hex off, but he's just going to turn around and look at him go to town. Never going to stop. He heals back up through it as well. No amount of magical damage is going to bring this guy down at this point in time, and they're going to keep their eyes on the prize. Melee Barracks starting to drop. The Sovereign summons a couple more trees to keep them at bay for the moment, but honestly, it's just more gold going into their coffers as it looks like the Melee Barracks is going to fall. Man, Infamous are just this unstoppable force, a sledgehammer in enemy.
Yeah, it felt like enemy didn't take them seriously there, right? They didn't bring the Lifestealer back there. They had the Lifestealer knocking down a Tier 1. Like, that's an objective more important than defending the base. They did not respond in the force that you respond to something like that. You know, they rolled out the National Guard. They needed the Navy. They needed the Marines. They needed SEAL Team 6 for that, and they didn't bring them home.
I'm kind of wondering, too, like, again, you look at the draft and the Skywrath Mage pick, not necessarily it's a bad pick by any means, but that it's not fulfilling the role that they need out of this support right now. Like, they need more wave clear right now. Even something along the lines of a Coddle, I feel like, could end up making a huge difference in enemy's draft.
Yeah, the Skywrath Mage did a good deal of work in the mid lane, so it's hard for me to really criticize it too much.
Right. But
something with some AoE clear would have been nice in its place, especially if it were something that would have also been able to spam out. But this is the point in the game that I was talking about during the draft, remember? You got the Radiance up on the Alchemist. You've got the Ancient Black Dragon for the Lifestealer. They're just going to be able to push down into towers. And Huskar is not going to be nearly as effective at knocking this strategy down. He will still be able to handle it, but not quickly.
This is literally the same build that I saw him go like 6 months ago in the Frankfurt qualifiers. Is like the armlet into boots, or actually armlet into lifesteal, then into treads, and followed up with a Sange, and then eventually Heaven's Halberd, and just nothing stopped him. And now they're going to go back into Roche.
War never changes.
Absolutely. Fate's Edict to take away the Roshan, disarm him for a moment. That's one other piece of this that's pretty nice, is once Rage ends up wearing off for Lifestealer, he can't actually do a ton because of that Fate's Edict. But it looks like they want to go for a little bit more now.
Yeah, the lead here is extremely minimal, though, for Infamous in terms of net worth. So if they do go in, they need to keep in mind that, yes, they do have just an amazingly OP Huskar running in their ranks right now, but the rest of them are vulnerable. And if they start to fall down quickly, Huskar will be left alone fighting 1-on-3 or 1-on-2 and may end up just getting kited out. So positioning is important, even though it does look like they're going to be able to take another tower here without too much defense.
And I mean, you're looking at this, you've got the Aegis still on Huskar. Now they've also got the ability to heal up through this, trying to do a lot of damage to the DP, but it's just not going to be enough. They get the silence off, but there's no more from that ultimate to keep her in place, and they're just going to run straight at them. The barracks are already dead, and that's hardly any of the ulti committed for that. They do have these Ancient Black Dragons, but they're about to get mega creeped at 18.5 minutes right now. The tier 3 tower about to drop. They do jump forward now with the lifesteal. Are going to try and kill off this Doom. A really nice Earth Spike falls, but they're not going to be able to find the kill, and it looks like they do finally bring down that Huskar, but the Aegis means that he's going to come back in a second. A really nice wand there by Lion, keeping him alive for the moment. Doom is already dead, and now looking to finish this guy off. They do finally take down the tier 3. The jump forward purges also all the debuffs, and now going to try and kill off this lifesteal. He's not going to be able to armor toggle it up. Really nice jump into the Skywrath Mage, though, and he should be able to survive through this now. The jump back on the other side. They're seeing if they can find somebody. Sovereign is going to drop. The DP had to run away for the moment. Lycan not able to catch up on that Lion, and now the stun. They're not going to be able to find a kill on this Huskar, I don't think. Lifestealer is barely alive, but he has to jump back in. They need the DPS. Can they find the kill? Turning onto this Dazzle. They haven't been able to find it, though. A really nice silence comes out, and they have been able to clean up. They save their barracks at last. That was such a well-executed end to that team fight for EnemyGG. It could have gone so much terribly.
Yeah, if only they had executed the end of that team fight at the beginning, right? But the conditions just weren't there for victory. Lifestealer is starting to tank up quite a bit, though. He has the option to get away with the Infest, as we saw that last fight, right? He's got a bunch of Burning Spears on him. The Huskar focuses him down. Pow, he jumps into any sort of unit. He does not take the Burning Spear damage. He waits for it to fade off, and then he pops back out, armor toggles back into the fight. They do have answers to this lineup, and the Huskar lineup with the Death Prophet, I would be very surprised if they're unable to take barracks on this next push with Death Prophet's ult. At that point in time, it's going to be very, very difficult for EnemyGG to actually get out and get something done. So they haven't actually done any pushing with the Ancient Black Dragon strategy yet. They need to get out and get some work done now, because if they're fighting in their base anymore, they will probably just lose the game by attrition.
It's really a tough situation. I mean, they've got a ton of wave clear, at least to some extent now, and you see the Nature's Prophet, he picked up the Agnum Scepter, so they're going to be able to try and keep these lanes pushed out, but it just feels like this is, I mean, you're looking at it right now, they're just going to jump the Lion. There's nothing that he can do to stop this, and they've got a creep wave. Like, right now, if you're Nature's Prophet, you need to go back and try and cut this, but there's just no ability to do it.
Alchemist is going to come back, but just a little bit too late, and this all comes down to, I think, their hesitance to defend the first set of barracks. It really hurt them now, because they are running out of time to actually make these defenses work. Had they paid more serious attention to that up top, this would be a different tale.
All right, well, they get the silence. The Doom is down onto the Alco, and that really hurts. They've already lost the Skywrath Mage, and it doesn't look like there's anything that's going to stop them at this point. They get the Glyph for the moment. It's keeping them back and trying to drain away the mana. They do get the stacks onto the Huskar, but he's still going to be able to continue to do the damage. A really nice stomp comes out from the Centaur Conqueror that was dominated, trying to control him for the moment. Oh, the last second Grave, though, and now he's got Blade Mail on him. They're going to turn back around, going to get the Mega Creeps, and nothing is going to stop them. Oh, EnemyGG.
Yeah, no buyback either. They're going to call the GG as BSJ does one more suicide run. Man, with the extra net worth that comes out of the Alchemist, with the extra control that just comes out of having that much potential carry, it really felt like EnemyGG were going to be able to bounce back into this one. They just didn't quite execute together when it counted. You know what I mean? It hurts almost a little bit to watch them lose in that manner, because you really could see how the victory could unveil for them. It wasn't one of those games where it was just out of their control.
It was a complete and total disaster. I mean, there were moments where it felt like they were going to be able to bring it back, but just that constant pressure that you had. And, you know, Huskar Strat's apparently still a thing here in 6.87. You got to watch out for them. Maybe you come back again to the draft and thinking about, you know, that Ancient Apparition ban, and maybe that ends up signaling that you don't want to leave the Huskar open, but regardless, Kotaro Hayama shows that he's still pretty good on that hero. Again, Lyrical Dota as well as Gorgon the Wonder Cow. We're going to be back in just a little bit with DC versus Dragneel. Any final thoughts before we finish this off?
No, just happy to be here, running through one series and into another.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys again for watching, and we'll be back in just a second with more from the North American qualifiers for Nanyang Championship. Stick around, everybody.